What does it mean to sacrifice or dedicate yourself to something? Most people have the common misinterpretation that being dedicated just means that I put in this much amount of time every day. I put in 5 hours every day. I put in 4 hours every day. I put in 6 hours every day. Now, while it is true that dedication does require you to put in time, just putting in time doesn't prove to anybody that you're dedicated, that you're ready to sacrifice. Dedication and sacrifice go hand in hand because they're almost one and the same thing. If you really think about it, dedication is not just putting in time, it's taking time of other things so that you can put in time. It's taking time off your leisure activities so that you can put in time. It's taking time off other things that you can do, such as go and meet friends or go and party, go and enjoy a nice meal, so that you have an extra amount of time to put in to the art or craft that you're trying to master. Now, how this is related to being a professional player is very deeply rooted to how you would operate as any athlete or how you would operate to anything that you really want to get good at. There will be times when you will have to make a choice between spending a few hours to either, in this case, play a game or watch a demo or spend time with teammates over spending time with maybe your friends, maybe going out to eat, maybe going out to drink, maybe going out to have some fun, party, meet your girlfriend, whatever it may be, or any other leisure activity. There will be times when you'll have to make that choice where you choose practice over something that would give you some leisure. It's a common saying that every time you take a break, there is somebody else who's working hard to take your place, which is true because the time that you will spend in taking rest or performing leisure activities is the time everybody else is gunning for your place if you're at the top. Every time that any professional takes a break, all they can think about is when can they get back to playing, because they know that if they miss even a few days, they have a lot to catch up for. Now, there is also an understanding that if you spend 2 hours, let's say you spend 2 hours to practice your aim, right? When Valorant, you're playing Valorant, you think, what is my 2 hours when compared to something I can go and have fun? Like I can go and catch up that 2 hours later. But that 2 hours on one day will turn on to 2 hours on another day, and over the course of a year, you will lose hundreds of hours because you decided to have fun or relax when you could be practicing. Now, this isn't to say that you shouldn't take a break. It is very important to take breaks so that you don't have a burnout, so that you don't burn yourself out, wear yourself out, and actually start hating the game or actually start hating what you do. Because there have been instances of professionals in multiple areas who were so engrossed into their work, who were such workaholics, you could say, that they lost their form, they lost their rhythm, and they ended up hurting themselves in the long run. Sure, they were successful for the shorter term. Sure, they had this burst of, yeah, where I'm doing really well now, I don't want to stop now because I'll keep continuing to play well. And then they would end up in a slump where some players couldn't recover from the slump, and then you end up retiring earlier than you would normally. This is common in most scenarios. So I'm not discouraging taking breaks. What I am saying is when you have the time, when you have the interest, when you feel like you need to work on something, it is okay to sometimes sacrifice. This is where the sacrifice part comes in, right? Sacrifice other leisure activities to actually go practice. It's not a glorified work culture that I'm trying to promote, but it's a reminder that you will always have a lot of catching up to do, because there will always be somebody who is better than you at what you do. Sacrifice, coming to actually the core of sacrifice, is sacrifices are different for different people. For me, it was the time I would spend with my friends and family. I remember back in school when I did start out Counter Strike, and I really believed that I could go pro or do something in this field. When those thoughts were creeping in, I remember my friends would keep meeting to play cricket every evening, and they would call me to play. Now, I am no sports enthusiast. I don't. I could barely play cricket, but they were my friends, and neither could most of them. And they would still call me, because whatever you do with friends is always going to be fun. For a long time, I would always keep denying them and always say, no, I can't come. No, I don't think my dad will let me. I don't feel like coming today. And after a course of like a few months of that happening, they decided to stop calling me entirely. And after a few more months, I asked them, hey, why have you stopped calling me to play cricket when I actually did want to break and did want to play? And their reply was, yo, you anyway gonna say no, so we didn't bother. And that at the time, because I was a juvenile, it hurt me, because it felt like they couldn't talk to me, they couldn't ask me, and I felt very unwanted in their presence. So I sacrificed my friendship there for a video game, for the game that I was trying to go pro in. Was that sacrifice worth it? It did give me a few extra hours, and I credit some of whatever I've achieved to those few hours that I could spend in honing my craft. Similarly, you might have some sacrifices that you will have to make or want to make, such as, another example would be when I could have studied really well and gotten good results on my exams, but I chose to sacrifice the time I could do that so that I could pursue what I love. There were times when I would reach, when there were lands and everything happening in Mumbai and Delhi. There would be times when I would finish my tournament, and my exams would be on the very next day, so I'd only have the morning to study. So I would land via airplane in the morning, and at 2 p.m. we'd have our exam, and I'd have to rush to college and then study whatever I could out of 5 modules, around 300-400 pages, and I would have to write my exam. Did that take a toll on my CGPA? Of course it did. I wasn't able to perform as I would if I had enough time to study, if I spent enough time in actually studying. But that is another sacrifice I had to make. Why I made this sacrifice was because when I was in college, I knew what I wanted to be. I knew that I wanted to be a professional player. I knew I had the aptitude for that, which is why I did not care much about studying. Coming to you guys, you might have, if you're a student, you might have similar sacrifices or issues with dedication, where the most common question is, hey, how do I balance my studying as well as trying to go pro at the same time? How much time should I spend? There is no rule about how much time you can and should spend, and there is no secret to how you can balance something like this. It's different for different people. Me, I love the subjects I was studying, so it was less of an issue for studying. You might not like the subjects you're studying. Maybe you find it actually hard. Maybe you will not be able to grasp it until you spend a long time to study. So I cannot advise you on exactly how much time you should spend on XYZ. I will say this: no matter how much you're willing to dedicate and sacrifice, never quit your education for it. Education is the one key where even after, let's say you become the most successful professional player, after you retire, what happens then? That's where your education falls in, which works as a sort of a cushion. So even if you are ready to be the most successful player, if the most dedicated player, the player that sacrifices the most, and become one of the best professionals in the world, think about your future. And education helps. It not only helps you, it will help the families that you might start in the future as well. There was not much to say about dedication and sacrifice because it's mostly very obvious. The more you dedicate, the more you sacrifice, the most likely you'll be successful, right? But I hope some examples of my personal experiences plus some elaboration on what it means helps you guys in understanding how you can be closer to your dream of becoming a professional player, and what is one more ingredient that you might need to add to your basket. So you can think about it for a little bit of time or a lot of time. Who am I to say how long you should think about it for? About how much you're ready to sacrifice, how much time you're willing to dedicate, and if you have the aptitude for it and you have the capability to dedicate this much time and sacrifice this much time for honing your craft, then you can make this into a viable career option, as people would like to say. So, yeah, don't neglect your education, but try to find ways in which you can dedicate your time, and don't be afraid to make sacrifices if it's something you truly believe in.